The position group that I have the most confidence in heading into this season for the Aggies has to be the defensive line.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. Obviously, there's a lot on the line tonight. The Aggies are one win away from a national championship. It's Game 3, winner take all, coming up this evening. I'm stoked. I know y'all are. We'll talk about Game 1, Game 2, and prepare for Game 3 here in segment 2. But first today, what I want to do is rank the positions on the field based on how much confidence I have for this Texas A&M football team. So, in doing that, I got to start with defensive line. That's my number one position that I feel the most confident in. The second position that I'll talk about here in a minute, I think it was pretty neck and neck. But, this defensive line, it just all across, whether it's coming off the edge, the defensive ends, your guys up the middle, your interior defensive linemen, you've got solid pieces everywhere. And then on top of that, you have solid depth pieces behind them. And that, is kind of the point here as to why this team or this defensive line can be so special. You are going to be able to mix players in and out, and the guys coming off the bench aren't going to be this massive drop-off from the starters. So, your defensive line is going to be incredibly deep, incredibly talented, and that depth is so important. It's something I talk about here at Locked On Aggies, as you everydayers know, all the time. You have got to have depth. If you don't have depth, you just flat out aren't going to be a good football team. Yeah, you could have a good starting, group at any position. But if you lose one or two guys and you have no depth, that's it. That is it. So having depth is key. And at this defensive line position, Texas A&M has elite players behind elite players, and that should lead to a really dominant unit. You just got to feel better about a group that if injuries strike, they're going to be really, really good with the backups. And that's the case here. So I think that's got to have you excited. This unit has me really excited, and I know it does y'all as well. The second group I have is the running back room. And once again, this was really close between the defensive line and the running back room. The running back room, you have elite players all over. I think that Ruben Owens and Le'Veon Moss could be the best 1-2 punch. Maybe, not the let's calm that. Let's walk that back. There are some really good over at Ohio State. There's some really good 1-2 punches. But I believe there's a chance this ends up being a top 10 1-2 punch in college football at the running back position. And I think it's one, people might not know about this 1-2 punch yet. And I think that having a better play caller and a better system could lead to more success for this running back room. So all in all, I feel really, really good about this running back room, knowing that you have those two guys. But then also the guy he got behind him, Amari Daniels, is a really good running back. Like, that's my point. Your guy who I believe is going to end up being the third string is, I think it started a lot of Power 4 schools. Like, he's that good of a player. So, if you lose a guy to injury, you still have a couple, and even your fourth string guy is solid. Like, you have exactly what you need in the running back room. You have depth, but you have elite talent. And same thing with defensive line. It's the same spiel. You have enough guys that if you lose somebody, you're still in a fine spot, but you also top to bottom are just a really good room. And having a lot of rooms like that is what makes a football team really good. Third position group I have here is quarterback. Obviously my confidence in Connor Wigman is very high. I think he's going to have a huge season. I think he's going to have this prove to the college football world who he is, and he's ready to stay. I think he's going to have that type of season, and that is extremely important for how good this team ends up being. Now, the other reason I had this position group so high is how good your backups are. If you're a Texas A&M football fan, you know the struggles the Aggies have had keeping quarterbacks healthy over these last handful of seasons. And, at some point it almost feels like, man, this is just life now. But if something were to happen to Wigman, which let's just have this be the year that your quarterback stays healthy the whole season, wouldn't that be awesome? Let's just have that. This is the year. But if something were to happen, you have two backups in Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson, who are once again players that I think could start at a lot of Power 4 schools. I think Henderson is a solid quarterback who proved he can win football games in the SEC last season. And then Marcel Reed, all we did was see him in that one bowl game, but you saw the upside and the flash that showed, hey, this guy can be really good. Next, I got tight end. And for me, this is just a room where I feel good about Donovan Green, obviously, and I've discussed that a lot here on the show. I believe that we talked a lot about that last week. But you have a lot of different tight ends that are good. I like Platt. I think Theo could be good. And then you went and got all those transfers that are veteran transfers. So, this is like a 6 deep room. Legitimately, this is a room where you could, is it 7 deep? Green, Theo, Platt. If you count the freshmen, pretty much. So point being, it's a deep room with a lot of guys. And it's almost one of those rooms where it's like, man, you have 6 solid tight ends. I think that at least one of them can step up. But I don't think you really need to use that exercise here because I think Donovan Green's going to be that good. I think he's going to have a massive year for the Aggies. I think he would have last year had he not gone down with the ACL tear. He's healthy. He's ready to rock and roll. And I think he's going to have a really good season in 2024. Next position group is linebacker. Obviously, we feel great about Terry York. This unit would have been ranked higher if we felt better about the second linebacker, whether it is DeShields, whether it's Scooby, whoever it ends up being. That's what this is going to all come down to. Can this second linebacker be good? And if the second linebacker is good, then I think this unit could leapfrog definitely tight end. So that's the linebackers. Then receiver. This is one I think some might have more confidence than me in this room. My only concern about receiver is that you have a whole bunch of wide receiver 2s, and maybe is someone able to step up and be that number one guy? You have to have that number one guy. And that's my only concern. It's not a huge concern for me. It's definitely a small concern, but it's the reason I don't have this room maybe right below quarterback in that 4 spot. I think if y'all ranked I think most would have receiver higher than me, and that's fair. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I have a few hesitations, and that really is the bulk of them. Then I've got corner. I think I am starting to get confident in this cornerback room. I think you just brought in so many transfers that pretty much every single one of them, I look at this and I go, I think this dude's going to be really good. I think this dude's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really good. You've got so many of those players, plus a Terry Bussey, plus a Javon Thomas, plus these players back from last year, some of your veterans back from last year, that it's impossible you're not going to be able to put out a few guys on this field and have not a dominant, but a solid cornerback room. I think you are. Next, I have safety. I think moving Bryce Anderson out there makes me feel more confident in this room. Coach Elko said, hey, I recruited him as a safety. He's playing safety. I think that makes me more confident in this room. But, I think I just have a little bit more confidence in the cornerback room than I do the safety room. Then lastly, least confidence is offensive line. And I don't think that's a crazy take. I think we pretty much all agree here the offensive line is going to be a significant question mark on this team. I've said if this offensive line can just end up being serviceable, that the Aggies are going to have a really good season. But if the offensive line is bad, this offense is going to struggle to move the football just based on the fact that, hey, it's hard to the running backs find holes. It's hard for receivers to have time to get open. Connor Brickman have time to find receivers when you have no time to do any of that from your offensive line. So that is going to be a huge key for this football team. So let me know in the YouTube comments, would you have moved any position groups up, down? How would you have ranked them based on your confidence for this upcoming season? Let me know that in the YouTube comments. I'm very curious to hear all y'all's thoughts on that. But let's talk a little bit about the College World Series. The Aggies are getting ready to play the Volunteers tonight. Game 3, winner take all. Winner goes home a national champion. I'm excited. We'll talk about what happened in Game 1 and 2 and break down Game 3 coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. I'll tell you this. I think that we're getting awful close, ladies and gentlemen, to fantasy football. We're getting awful close to college football, NFL football, everything that I think everybody here that's an everyday at Locked On Aggies loves. So I'll tell you this. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the national championship? If you've got any confidence, go place a future right now over on FanDuel. I'm doing that myself. Maybe I'll have to share who I have for the NFL and for the college football here in a few days. But go place a future. They are a ton of fun. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Aggies take Game 1 of the final series against Tennessee in Omaha 9-5. Caden Kent goes 3 for 5 in this ball game. He scores a run, 4 RBIs, and he, of course, hit a homer. Caden Sorrell goes 2 for 5, 1 run, 2 RBIs. And then Hayden Schott keeps doing what he's doing. He has he had a couple hits and a run and an RBI in this ball game. So Prager goes 4 innings in this game. 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 81 pitches. So this Prager is going to be an interesting conversation. And we'll get to that more when we finish talking about the 2 games. But I don't think he was it wasn't his best outing. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, you watch a lot of postseason MLB, a lot of postseason baseball, you know that when players, when you get to the postseason, when you get to the deepest part of the season, that is when the hitters are starting to see the ball better. You know, obviously, pitchers always have an advantage, whether it's in college baseball, professional baseball. Pitchers always have a little bit of an advantage. It's just reality. You know, it's why hitters, you know, to be a Hall of Famer, you fail 7 out of 10 times. I love saying that. I love that cliche more than anything. But, you know, I think that, Prager didn't have his best day. He was hit around a little bit. Hitters they're hitting their best of the season right now. Just a reality. So you're going to have outings like this where you get hit around the ballpark a little bit. But once again, 2 runs, you had a lead. It ends up being okay. You win this with 9-5. Eschenbeck comes in, goes 2.2 innings, 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs, 46 pitches, which is another thing that's going to be a valuable point here in a minute. So that's Game 1. You win that one 9-5. Game 2, you lose 4-1. You start off with a bang as Jason Laviolette hits a home run to give you a 1-0 lead. He goes 2 for 2 in this game with a run, obviously a home run, obviously an RBI. He also walked twice. He was on base 4 times. Caden Sorrell goes 2 for 4 in this game, but the bat struck out 12 times. And Tennessee's hitter struck out 12 times as well. So it's not like, you know, It was crazy one-sided on the strikeouts, but a lot of strikeouts will hurt you. That's just the reality here. So Chris Cortez goes 4.1 innings in this game, 2 hits, 7 strikeouts. My handwriting killed me here, but it was either 91, 99, in the 90s when it comes to pitch count. So then Caden Wilson, of course, gives up the 4 earned runs, 2.1 innings pitched there. So now that's the breakdown of these 2 games. You lose that game 4-1, forcing a game 3 in this series, which, I would have loved to win game 2, but hey, this is going to be a fun one, ladies and gentlemen. So I believe it was announced, and let me double check. Let me pull this up, and that's not, but it's not working. Oh, it's because I was spelling stuff wrong. There you go. Yes, so Justin Lampkin will get the start for the Aggies in game 3. So where we're at right now, the question then becomes, this is what the question becomes, ladies and gentlemen. It becomes, what do you have left pitching? And once again, if you watch the MLB, you'll know, okay, in the World Series, in the final, if you see a game 7 in the World Series and your ace pitched in game 4, which obviously that's not really how the math would add up, but still, let's say that happened, and he's on 2 days rest instead of his normal 5 days rest, you see a guy go out and throw. Does Ryan Prager throw in this game? Do you put Chris Cortez out there the day after on 90 pitches? It's when the final game of the season is when you do things you wouldn't normally do. Obviously, Chris Cortez would not be out there today. Would not be out there today under normal circumstances. But do you throw him out there to try and win a national championship? Ryan Prager, he got a day's rest after 81 pitches. Do you give him the ball a day later? And then I do believe Eschenbeck will be good to go after 46 pitches within a day of rest. I think he'll be good to go. So, the question is, are you going to ride Lampkin? Are you going to let him go deep into this game? Are you going to try and see if he can go 5 or 6 innings? Or are you going to see if he can go 3 or 4 innings? And then maybe you throw Eschenbeck 2 or 3, and then Prager 1 and 2, and then let Cortez come in and close it. That's how are you going to play this? And I think it's up to the coaching staff. Obviously, you're not going to risk somebody's arm. You're not going to risk somebody's future. Cortez is a player, for example. When you throw 100, you have a future in professional baseball. So how is Coach Coach Sloss, man, that was tough getting out there. How is he going to use this pitching staff? I believe you will definitely see Eschenbeck tonight. That one is a lock. Do you see Prager? That is going to be interesting. Cortez would be the one I'd be the most surprised to see, knowing he threw 90-plus pitches yesterday. I'd still be a little surprised to see Prager go out there. But once again, I tell you, who's going to want the baseball today? Cortez and Prager. They're going to say, Coach, put me in this baseball game. Put me in this baseball game. They want the baseball. They want to be in this game. They don't, they don't care about their arm right now and I'm sore and I got to get the lactic acid flowing with a 5-mile run. No, none of that. They don't care about any of that. They want to pitch in this baseball game. And, that's what's going to be interesting. It is going to be, how do you use pitching? How is Tennessee conserve their pitching? I think that it's pretty even right now. I'd say it's pretty even which teams have used up their pitching and which teams are healthy. I think for the most part, this is pretty fair, pretty even across the line right now. But that, once again, is what I am monitoring heading into this game. The bats got to show up, obviously. The bats have got to show up. Only 7 hits yesterday, strike out 12 times. You got to have a boom game in this game. You need the bats to show up. You got to play well. Here's the deal. You have one chance at a national championship. You have got to play well. So I'm anxious to see how this ends up working out, who ends up pitching, who ends up getting innings, how deep does Lampkin go? Is he like an opener? Is he going to go 2 innings? You're going to kind of piece it together, or are you going to let him ride as long as he can? A lot of interesting aspects to this game, but at the end of the day, you need your pitchers to show up, and you got to hit the ball. If you do these two things, you can win this game. I mean, you got to do it, ladies and gentlemen. You're a win away from a national championship. Do it. Do the thing. I mean, come on. You are 1 win away from a national championship. I think that most people are rooting for Texas A&M. Obviously, I've got a lot of family in Kentucky, and of course, Kentucky fans do not like Tennessee. And I've gotten a lot of texts and phone calls saying, "Come on, Aggies, baby, let's go, let's get this win," because that nobody wants to see Tennessee win. So, I got no other. I've got no hype speech. All I've got, win the damn thing. That's all I got to say. Let's win this thing. Bring home a national championship. I can't wait for this game, ladies and gentlemen. I know y'all are right there with me, and we'll break down what happens either way on tomorrow's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about where Phil Steele has the Aggies ranked in his preseason top 25. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, got to tell you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. So Phil Steele put out his preseason top 40, not top 25, but top 40. And the Aggies found themselves right outside of the top 25, sitting at the 28th spot. I think some would, I know it's funny. A lot of times when I talk about like where are the Aggies ranked in this list, who was ranked here, often y'all will, comment and say, man, I just don't care about the rankings when it comes to, I don't want us to be ranked. I think it's better when we're not ranked. We can surprise people. No one's expecting us to be good. And I agree with that. I don't think that's the worst take ever. I think sitting here where the Aggies are, 28th, right outside the top 25, I don't think that's a bad place to be, because I think it kind of shows you like, hey, we're right outside. We're a team that can beat you. We're a good football team, but we're not quite on that bubble of the expectations are super high. I think you're kind of in the middle there. And Texas A&M being a team that has been ranked so high to start the season off of late, had so many expectations. I think it's a good thing to be in that spot. But, I think the reason they're 28th is Texas A&M has a lot to prove this year. They're a talented team. I think that Coach Elko feels good about his roster. I think he feels good about the spot he's in. But they have a lot to prove. They've also added a lot and lost a lot in the portal. Teams like that, usually it's hard to get a gauge on. Okay, you lost these few talented guys, but you bring in these really good guys in the portal. You have a lot to prove between all these players. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up playing well, who ends up being the guy. I think that's part of it too. I think that once again, the positions that are question marks, which we kind of just talked about, secondary, offensive line, maybe that second player at linebacker, like those question marks make it a little bit hard to rank this team higher. The teams that are ranked in the top 10, top 15, they don't have a ton of concerns. Obviously, there's some, but they're probably more minuscule compared to the concerns we have for this Texas A&M roster. So I think that's why the Aggies are ranked 28th. I don't think it's an unfair ranking. I think it's a fine ranking. I still do believe the Aggies will end up being a top 25 team in the AP poll when the season starts, partially because I think people want that Notre Dame matchup for College Game Day to be a ranked matchup, which, and who doesn't want that? But that'll be interesting to see. Do they end up being ranked? I think they will. But it's going to be something interesting, something to monitor heading into the season. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate it. Hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. And hey, one win away from national championship. Everybody, get this game on the TV. If you're not there, get to Omaha, leave your job. I will write a doctor's note for why you weren't at work today. Get to Omaha. Let's win a national championship. Everybody have an outstanding rest of your Monday, and we will see you tomorrow.